Hey everybody, it's Matt here from DNR Auto in Camden, Delaware. We wanted to take some time today to talk to you guys about the Jeep Death Wobble. Now, a lot of people who own Jeeps have either experienced the Death Wobble or have at least heard about it. Today we're going to take a little bit of time to go over what actually is the Death Wobble, what causes it, how to repair it, and what you can do to help prevent it in the future. So here we are out in the shop, and we wanted to take a moment first to discuss what our customer's initial complaint was. So I've got some old parts and pieces here. We've already got this Jeep most of the way torn down for the work that we're going to do. The customer came in and their complaint was that their steering components, when in place on the vehicle, they were able to grab their steering components and rock them, move them back and forth. It was causing some noise, causing a little bit of shimmying in the steering wheel, causing multiple issues. Now what you see here is that the Jeep suspension in the front end is made up of multiple ball joints in different locations. On the steering components, there's ball joints. There's actual ball joints here on the steering knuckle, on the end of the axle shaft itself, and there's ball joints on the end of the tie rod ends. Now all of these ball joints, when he came in, were worn. See this one here? It's got a little bit of movement to it. Should not be able to do that. One of his tie rod ends here, has a bit more movement to it. Should not be able to do that at all. The problem is that he was recommended a number of fixes. One of the most common fixes that we see for Death Wobble or Death Wobble-like problems is a steering stabilizer. Although a steering stabilizer plays a part in stabilizing the steering to help cut down on that road vibration, that is not a proper fix. A steering stabilizer will at best mask the problem a little bit until you blow that steering stabilizer out again, and then you're left with the problem, and because you've never dealt with the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is these joints. The second that one of these joints wears, it now allows every component in that front suspension to move a little bit more than it should. When you multiply that by typically 50, 60 miles an hour is where we see our most trouble, that with all of these components moving, it allows the tires to move back and forth. That is what actually is the Death Wobble. The front tires on your Jeep will start rocking back and forth because all of these joints have excessive play, and it allows for a situation where the steering wheel will start shaking uncontrollably, the wheels will start shaking, it'll sound terrible. That is the actual definition of what happens during Death Wobble. The problem that most people have, just like this gentleman, was recommended to replace these joints. That's fantastic. The problem is that they all work with each other. So when replacing these joints, we always recommend that you replace the ball joints. Now you can check the ball joints on a lift with the vehicle up in the air, with the tires on. You will get an idea of what kind of shape they're in. The big thing is that now that we've got this one apart, as you can see, this ball joint here is pretty stiff. This thing doesn't want to move at all. That's what they're supposed to be like. This ball joint down here, you could blow on this. A breeze can blow and allow it to move. So now what we're going to do is we're going to replace both the upper and lower ball joint here, mostly because once one starts going, it allows for the premature wear of the other. This entire front suspension system, the second that one piece of it wears, you start prematurely wearing all the other parts. The best way to fix this is by replacing all of these parts so you have a good working order ball joint in every location that there is one. And then from there, you can now drive regularly, you will not have Death Wobble issues. The other big thing that we do is, here in our shop specifically, all of these factory ball joints, if you notice, are ungreasable. There's no grease fittings. Aftermarket ball joints, such as a moved ball joint, which is one we use fairly often here, come with grease fittings so you can grease them. The big problem is that a ball joint will move a certain way, and it'll continue to move that way, and it'll continue to move that way. And although they're packed with grease, over time, if it continues to move in the same direction, the grease is going to wear out of where it needs to, and there's no more grease in there. It's not going to magically put itself back in the spot it needs to go. So what we recommend is when you get new ball joints with grease fittings on them, typically about every 2 oil changes, you should grease them. Now, not use an excessive amount of grease. You don't want to grease it to the point where it's coming out of every orifice. What you want to do is give it 1 or 2 pumps just to get some new grease in there to make sure every bit of that ball inside there is lubricated, and you should be good to go. The other issue with these is most ball joints come with some sort of, as you can see here, some sort of plastic or rubber cover over top of them. Now, when they're brand new, they're very, very well sealed, but over time they allow for little gaps and they allow moisture and water to get inside of them, and that destroys the ball joint. So some of the things we covered today about the death wobble. Death wobble, unfortunately, is most likely going to happen at some point in time just through natural wear of your front suspension components. When you couple in, a lift kit, wheels and tires, things that maybe drove some off-road driving, things that the vehicle was not intentionally designed for, you magnify those problems a lot faster and a lot quicker. The big things that I want you to take from this are making sure that when you go to repair this problem, that you attack the root cause and completely, revamp the front suspension system to allow you to fix it properly. Steering stabilizer is not a fix. A steering stabilizer is a shock, just like any other shock, and will wear over time. And although it may mask a problem, it will not actually fix the problem. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to give you a hand with anything you need, whether it be finding the parts, getting them installed, whatever it is that we can help you with. That can help you take care of your death wobble problem. And greasing your new ball joints when you have the new ones installed properly will add the longevity to the ball joint to help prevent this from happening in the future. So thank you guys very much for tuning in.